Hello world, Dano here, stacking paper yet again, and now we're doing a review of Edgedancer, which is a Stormlight archive novella. So first and foremost, if you haven't read any Stormlight, just click off this right now because massive spoilers for the first two books, Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. Or if you just don't care about spoilers, then I guess stick around, but fair warning. This is more of a gush. Solid 8 out of 10 before right out of the gate. I just think this is just a fun novella while at the same time being pretty serious. What really surprised me about this is the stakes are a lot higher than I expected them to be, given who the main POV character is. So the novella follows Lift, who literally had one interlude in Words of Radiance, and that's all we know of this character. But that one interlude was like a novelette length story. It was pretty much its own self-contained story within Words of Radiance, just as a side note, in a total other part of Roshar. And that's kind of like why I love Stormlight so much, is he really takes the time to just build out these little pieces of the world, especially through interludes, and can just throw in a new character completely out of left field, and by the end of the interlude, you're already completely locked in. Like, I think Lift is actually one of the best characters in Stormlight, and I know next to nothing about her, just because she has, like, the strongest personality. Legitimately, the funniest fucking character. Easily the funniest character in Stormlight so far. And this novella just kind of, like, blows it out of the water. Just amazing character development, amazing moments, so I'll just get into some of it. So the characters that it follows, it's really Lift, and then everyone else is kind of a side character. You got the Stump, who is the orphanage runner, the lady who runs the orphanage. You have the guard captain that she runs into at the very beginning. I guess I should just set the stage. So it takes place right after her novelette, where she rescues the then emperor. Not then emperor. He became emperor because in the Zir, the way that an emperor becomes emperor is everyone in the kingdom can submit an essay, and all of these viziers go through all of these essays, and they select from among them who is the most fit to be emperor, which is a crazy way to have a system of government, but it's better than monarchies, I guess. And that novelette takes place, so Saveth, who's obviously running around Roshar killing every single king, had just killed the king of Azir, so they have to have a new one. And Lift just breaks into the palace to, eat food. That's literally her only thing, is she just wants to steal people's lunches. That's all she lives for. Doesn't care about looting. And during this time, she's being chased by who we now know as Nail or Nile, but she just calls him Darkness. And she gets away from him because Darkness is like a pure form of justice, at least in his own mind. So because the Emperor decreed that he has to let her go, he let her go. But she decides to leave the safety of the palace and the new Emperor, who's like her close friend now, to go to a completely different place, called I'm already forgetting. I think it's Neffin or Yeffin, something like that. For what reason we don't know at the beginning, but her friend Wendell is extremely confused about this. He's like, you should have just stayed there and learned all the stuff they had to teach you, because you literally don't know shit. Right at the beginning, when she breaks into the city, like gets through immigration and just like sneaks past, kind of causes like somewhat of a miracle by tipping over a big bag of grain into like the slums. And Wendell's like, wow, that was such a super honorable thing you did there. And she's like, oh, I just wanted like a place to land. I didn't do that like to be nice. But on the way out, she steals the guard's logbook, and her logic for this is, oh, this is a book, and people pay money for books, so someone will buy this book. And Wendell looks at it, and he's like, this is literally just like a shift log of people clocking in when they when they come in for their shift. And she's like, oh, so it's not worth anything? He's like, you realize books are worth something because of what's in them, not just because it's a book. And that's like a perfect example of how Lift is really dumb, surface level. She is so stupid, and it's hilarious. But she has this deep philosophy, which is like really well thought out for like a 12-year-old. She's like 11 or 12. And that is the reason she wants to keep going around from place to place is in her mind, she's like, if I stay in one place too long, people start getting expectations. They start kind of overlaying what they think about you over top of you, and then they want you to be like that. And in doing that, you end up changing yourself. And she's like, I don't want to change. I want to stay who I am, because she doesn't really know who she is. The reason for this is, and this is for such a short like novella, there's a lot of little lore bits in here that I'm still kind of like trying to parse through. So the Night Watcher has been mentioned in multiple Stormlight books so far. And what I gathered was the Night Watcher is like one of these powerful spren that can kind of like take over people and puppet them. This is not confirmed. This is all theory crafting in my head. But now it's saying the Night Watcher is a real person, at least the way that Lift describes it. And it's the same person that Dalinar also went to. And it's kind of like a genie's wish type situation where you meet this person, you ask for something, and they give you what you wish for, but they take something in return. So it's kind of like a deal that's never worth it. So Dalinar is one of these people, and that's why he can't remember his wife. And so now Lift also did the same thing, but we don't even know what Lift asked for, but we now know that she just forgets who she is. In the original novelette, in Words of Radiance, she's Reishi by birth. She looks Reishi. But she's from like a super northern part that I guess already has a reputation, because when she mentioned it by name, the other people around her were like, oh, like, is it true that, and they don't even get to say what they were going to say, and she just stops them right there and goes, everything you've heard about it is true. And they're like, oh shit, that's fucked up. But we don't, like, it's assumed knowledge of the people of Roshar. We don't really know the details of that yet. But now we do know that the Night Watcher is someone that clearly Lift's been involved with, so I'm assuming Oathbringer is really going to bring a lot of that to the forefront, because it's going to be Dalinar's backstory. So hopefully we get to, find out what happened there. But yeah, so this novella, it's really, she goes into this city, and low key she's going after Darkness, Nail. And we're not really sure exactly why, but she kind of figures out by overhearing that he's there to find and kill another, little radiant upcoming Surgebinder. And she just doesn't want to sit by and watch some innocent get murdered, even though she does see it happen in the middle of the story. There's a thief that steals something from a merchant stand, and the merchant's like, oh, like, he starts yelling out. Nail grabs her by the head. The merchant's like, oh, thank goodness you captured her. And then he immediately just stabs her through the fucking heart with a shard blade, and everyone is just shocked. He's disgusted. He's like, why would you do that? And meanwhile, Nail is like, that's justice. I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, that's insane. But there's the best part of this whole novella for me is the fact that Saveth is in it. I did not expect Saveth to be in this novella, and I was so happy to have him there, especially, I won't give any spoilers for this, but this novella, and especially Words of Radiance, it is of such a benefit if you read Warbreaker before that, because you have so much more information about this new sword that Saveth has. And even Lift is looking at it like, oh, it has to be a shard blade. Like, what is that? I don't think it's a shard blade. We know it's something else based off of Warbreaker, because it is a sentient sword, like it can talk. And that's not a Warbreaker spoiler, because that literally happens in Words of Radiance. But Saveth sees Lift, so Lift is like eavesdropping on Nail and his two apprentices. Skybreaker apprentices, by the way, so they have the same powers as Kaladin. They can fucking fly. which blows Liv's mind. And she's like, what the hell? That's some bullshit. Why can't I fly? So she's overhearing this conversation, and Saveth actually walks down the hallway and sees her. And she's like, oh shit, I'm about to die. He starts pulling the sword out. You see the black mist come out. And then he puts it away and he walks off. And she's like, okay. And then later, so this is like near the climax of the novella, the two apprentices are going after this other Surge Binder. And Lift is going to go chase them, but Saveth is kind of like waiting there, and he senses her. And he even says, he's like, you must be the other Surge Binder that Nail's looking for. What are you doing? You should be running away. And she's like, you're not going to kill me? And he's like, no, the sword likes you. And she's like, okay, fucking cuckoo face, you're crazy. And she kind of gets into a bit of an argument. And this is why I love Lift. Like, she's so goofy, but she's like dealing with these essentially demigods. Right? Like, Saveth is like one of the most powerful people on Roshar at the point. He could kill anyone. And even Nail, we find out that he's a herald, or at least they say he's a herald. We'll have to confirm. I have my own theory about who the heralds are in general. I think the World Hoppers are essentially the herald. So guys like Hoyd and like Vasher, I guess, they're all the same power level in my eyes. I don't know yet. But she says to him, like he's like, Nail is going around and killing all these people, and so are you. And he's like, I kill kings. She's like, oh wow, that makes it so much better. And then he goes into this super like edgy speech of like, yeah, like I hear their screams, I can't get out of my head, I feel like, all this bloodlust, it's driving me insane. And he's being super deep and poetic, and Lift just goes, okay. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. Like, because he's trying to impart all this knowledge on her, and she's just like, dude, I could give a fuck. Because I think what Sanderson is trying to show through Lift, and a lot of the Knights Radiant and what make people the Knights Radiant, is they don't do good as like, it's almost unconscious for them. They're just being who they are, and as a consequence of being who they are, they end up doing good and like actually helping people. And that's what makes you like a true Radiant. Oh man, there's just some like really funny moments, like when she convinces all the scribes that they have to listen to her. Well, she doesn't convince them. She writes to Gox, the now emperor, via Spanreed, like, hey, tell these scribes they have to listen to me. And then he does write back, and they all start deferring to her. And she's like, you have to call me your pancakefulness. and they start doing it. And it's just so funny how she like really has no concept of like social structure and like how people have to respect other people. She's just like, man, I'm just doing me. And but yeah, I'm really happy to see Saveth here, especially because he doesn't really do anything. All he does is talk, because he would be way too powerful. Like, clearly Lift could not handle him. And to be fair, she couldn't handle even the apprentices, but she still goes after Nail anyway, like a badass. But the apprentices go after the other Surge Binder, who is actually this old man who Lift talked to earlier. And turns out this guy is a Lightweaver, I'm assuming. I think they said he was a Lightweaver. He killed the other two apprentices easy. And he kind of, there's like this like horror sequence where all these Kremlings, like these insects, are like making part of his body. Whether this is real or illusion, I'm assuming it's an illusion. It would be kind of crazy if it's real. But he is also either a herald or some kind of world hopper or something, because he said, like, I'm thousands of years old. Like, I've been doing this for millennia. And he doesn't fuck with Lift, but he does say, like, you should go after Nail because, like, I think, like, you there's more for you to do. And man, the climax of this, her going after Darkness, running into the building and saying, hey, I'm here. And he's like, you can't beat me. Why the hell would you come to me? He's like, you're a disgrace to the order you'd claim. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a disgrace to myself like every day, so that's fine. But yeah, like, and by the end of it, so another This is me just theorizing. So when Saveth is going around killing all these kings, he's not himself. He seems like he's being controlled by something because he's enjoying like the bloodlust. But then when Saveth is not doing that and talking normally, he's very like down to earth, poetic, and super. He has so much guilt because he knows that like he shouldn't be doing the things that he's doing, but he's being compelled to do it by one reason or another, either by his culture, because we don't really know much about the Shin yet. But they have something called oath stones, and if someone has this stone, you're just their slave, and you have to do whatever they tell you. We don't know why he adheres to that so religiously, but he does. But it seems like there's something more than that. Like there's either a spren, I'm guessing it's some kind of spren, that is controlling him, because the same thing happens to Nail. So Lift is fighting Nail, and clearly not gonna win. Like she's doing everything she can just to get the fuck away. And they get on the roof, and he's about to like kill her. And he's like, I'm doing all this for a reason. Like, I'm trying to stop the desolation. Meanwhile, there's a fucking high storm outside, and it's not a normal high storm. It's a high storm that's blowing in from the opposite direction, as prophesized by Dalinar, because that's what happened at the end of Words of Radiance. And she just looks at him and is like, look around, dude. Like, the desolations are already happening right now. Like, you failed. Like, you need to stop doing this. And he just has this moment of realization. You see the haze lift from his eyes, and then he dips and flies away. Actually, she gives him a hug, which is, like, crazy. Like, the guy that was literally trying to kill her not 30 seconds ago. Also, Wendell did turn into an honor blade for her, so that she made that final step. And which is another interesting thing, because both Saveth and Nail have shard blades, but they're not honor blades because they can only become blades. Honor blades can literally become anything. Just like Lift makes a fucking shard fork to eat pancakes with. I'm like, that was unreal. But so yeah, that's that really. And Nail's conversion, I guess you could say, is probably going to play a big role in the next book. And I in the postscript, Sanderson wrote, he knew that Nail had to have this moment, and also he wanted to give Lift some more love, so that's where this novella came out. It kind of it was a two birds with one stone type thing. But man, it just does so much for Lift. Like, she has the strongest personality in Stormlight, and I'm really excited for her to meet like the other main characters. I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant. I didn't really get into this the couple other characters. The Stump, she's the only other character. She's like the lady that leads the orphanage. There's a scene where Lift kind of realizes that she healed a kid, because there's a kid that has like a really bad head wound, and he's clearly like has severe brain damage, and by touching him, she healed him, and she only realized that when she went back to the orphanage to fight Nail, because he was fine. And she's like, I must have healed him. And then she realizes what the Stump is doing, because the Stump is like trading spheres and doing like really shady shit, but she's doing it because she knows that she's a Surgebinder and she's healing these kids. So it's kind of like, yeah, she's doing like extortion and arguably bad things, but you know, even bad people can do good things, or if the ends justify the means type thing. But yeah, all in all, fantastic novella. I think it adds a lot for such a short word count. It does so much for Lift. It does a lot for the lore in general, for learning more about the heralds and what's really going on behind the scenes. And it's just like a perfect lead up. I think it's just like a super extended interlude, and the interludes are kind of like my favorite parts of Stormlight in general. So yeah, if you're a Stormlight fan, don't skip these novellas. If you've read the first two and you want to read Oathbringer, read this first. And also, if you can't, do yourself a huge favor and read Warbreaker before you read Words of Radiance, because it'll give a lot of context and Easter eggs for other things in Stormlight. But yeah, heavy recommend.